My name is Sonja Olsson, and I'm from the Brahma Kumaris Environment Initiative. And I'm so happy to be moderating this program, this event tonight. And it's called Healthy Mind, Healthy Planet, Strengthening Values and Authenticity in Sustainable Development. And it's hosted by Brahma Kumaris, Sweden, and we're in their nice meditation center. And today we have gathered to commemorate the conference that took place in 1972. And we are also gathered to tackle the triple crisis the Earth is going through: climate, nature, and pollution. 50 years ago, I was 10 years old, and I walked around in the Swedish forest, barefoot on the meadows, picking flowers, and I remember being very happy at that time. And I felt very safe on the Swedish countryside. And little did I know, at the same time, Olof Palme and UN had gathered the world leaders to discuss the declining signs of the environment. And I was in Småland, which is like 400 kilometers away from Stockholm. And already at that time, did Olof Palme talk about values guiding our future and our future destiny. So already at that time, they did discuss that we have to also work on the inside to make our future destiny sustainable. And little did I know when I walked in the Swedish forest that today 80% of the original world forest is gone. 80% of the original world forest is no more here. And most of the forest has disappeared the last 3 decades. And little did I know when I walked in the Swedish forest that all the insects around me, 50 years later, now 40% of all insects, the species, are facing extinction. So a lot of things have happened in the last 50 years. And this evening's program, we will discuss some of the values and we need in order to secure our future. And I'm so happy to welcome our panelists who will address this topic. And from the left, we have Golop Hills from Brahma Kumaris and advice on renewable energy. And here we have Dr. Lorna Gold, Director for the Community Building in Faith Invest. And we have Tagile Matevos from our Church of Ethiopia. I will give you the proper name later because it's very long. And I know that it is not the same faces you saw on the poster when you signed up for this event. But what happened is that 2 of our panelists, Melanie and Kajsa, they are not well. So we especially thanks to Lorna and Tagile for turning up in the last notice. And we're actually somehow colleagues from the past. So it's very happy to have you here. So to those listening online, you're also most welcome. And of course, you're here in the room. And you will keep your mics muted. And after their presentations, we'll have opportunity for question and answers. So if you want to ask anything, you put it in the chat, and that will eventually come to me. And those in the room, you can just speak out if you have questions. And then we will end the evening with a short guided meditation. I thought we'd start with an inside-out approach to sustainable development. So I've asked Golop Hills to start sharing about the inner work. And then we will move to a community level by Tagile, and then finish with an organizational level by Lorna. So we'll start with Golo, and I introduce him here. Golop Hills has been more than 35 years with Brahma Kumaris as a meditation teacher. And today he's our advisor on renewable energy. And in the mid-90s, he started make Brahma Kumaris invest and use renewable energy long before many other organizations. So Brahma Kumaris in India today have become one of the biggest single institutional users of renewable energy. And recently, Golo has also been part of the team constructing India One, a 1 megawatt solar thermal power plant. And this is an innovative research project where the solar energy also runs at night. So we get this electricity nighttime. And this is a research project with the German and Indian government. And Golo has also been to the last 13 climate change conferences, last time in Glasgow, and is a presenter and speaker there and talks about the value approach to climate change. So Golo, welcome, and the mic is yours.
Yeah, and good evening, and thanks very much, Sonia, for the introduction, and thanks to the Brahma Kumaris to organize this event in association with the Stockholm+50. And indeed, last 13 climate conference, I have had the chance to participate, and it has been a long journey, and we were very hopeful. Actually, in Copenhagen was the first one we all gathered together. Brahma Kumaris as an environmental initiative. And we were very hopeful, and everybody told us, no problem, we'll fix climate change, we'll just take money, technology and strategy. And they all said, no problem at all, and there was so many big politicians. We were very hopeful. Unfortunately, I just came last week from India, and in India, the situation is quite grim. We had one of the toughest heat wave on record. Actually, it was a record heat wave since they take the record since 150 years. It was the hottest spring. It was the driest spring, and 20 to 40% of the wheat harvest has been destroyed. I was in South India where they produce coffee and pepper and cardamom, and 50% of the coffee has been destroyed because it was raining 6 months uninterrupted. So the climate is just flipping totally, and this is affecting our food security. So after 12, 13 years of negotiations, and after 50 years of Stockholm+50, that's the name indicating, we are in a very tight spot. Many scientists are saying that it's already after 12 o'clock, and it will be very difficult to sort of reverse the negative effects of climate change. And some scientists say we have triggered the tipping points in climate, and we are marching towards a hothouse Earth. So the situation is very dramatic. And as Sonia mentioned, Brahma Kumaris has started already 25 years ago to initiate research and development of renewable energy systems. We started very modest with small solar cooking systems and small photovoltaic systems, and then we actually moved on community level, and we increased the systems a little bit. And the last project was a quite massive 4 football fields in size, a 1 megawatt solar power station with storage, so we can run 24 hours. And you might know that one of the hurdles to the transition to clean technology is the storage, to store the energy and then utilize it when you need it. So that thermal power station exactly can do that. It was a research project and a flagship project by the German and the Indian government. So we have been very active, and Brahma Kumaris has 5,000 meditation centers in India, and we slowly equip them with renewable energies. And I was just in our retreat place in Germany also. We have also put up a 20 kilowatt photovoltaic system there, and I can go online in my mobile, and I can see, and yesterday we had 90% autarky. It means we're running 90% on solar energy. So we are trying to be very practical and really bring renewable energies into our institution, and of course, doing also research projects. We work with the local Indian Institutes of Technology. We've conducted more than 40 workshops with engineers in India and introduced them to the technology. And a lot of our stuff is on the internet, and you can actually replicate it. And we promote solar cooking box, solar lantern, also things for small communities, not only the high tech, but also the very basic things you can do. Unfortunately, in India, the situation is very tough because A lot of population pressure is there on the environment, so biodiversity is suffering, as Sonia mentioned, suffering quite visibly, and deforestation is also going on at a high speed because trees are and bushes are the primary fuel for the people. And unfortunately, the energy crisis hits India in a very bad way. For example, a gas cylinder, which 70% of the Indian population are using for cooking, have crossed 1,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees is how much in Swedish, Sonia?
100 krona.
100 krona
Okay.
now for a gas cylinder, which is a lot of money for an average Indian family. So the government also is subsidizing all that to bring down the cost. So the situation is dramatic, and Brahma Kumaris actually has a dual-fold approach. We try to do something practically. We have a reforestation program. We train farmers in alternative ways. We are also doing a lot of organic farming. And we use a lot of renewable energies. We're trying to spread the good message. But on the other side, we also believe it is very, very important to change on the inside, because we believe all that what is happening outside in the world is actually a mirror or a reflection what happens on the inside in the world. We believe if there's a lack of ethics and a lack of values, then also your actions run out of guidance and they're not beneficial to society at all. So we believe that people have to become loving, compassionate, they have to be at peace with themselves, and then they can act on the outside accordingly and use a technology which is also beneficial for society and for the future. So what we are doing is we're doing offering a lot of meditation courses, or yoga, Raja Yoga, as we say in India. And yoga is a very ancient method where you connect your mind or the spirit with the supreme being, with the light. The light has been given many names: God, Allah, Shiva, you name it, he's everywhere, and in so many names. And people and societies in all times, they have sort of tried to connect to this supreme light. And yoga is a very ancient, very powerful method to establish that connection and then draw energy, love, compassion, and initiate a transformative process on the inside. Because we believe if on a collective level, we all start changing, then our actions will change. The technology we are going to use is change, and climate change and all the problems around us become very small problems. So we believe meditation is a tool also to build up resilience and strength and foster also a community spirit, which is very, very, very important in the near future, because as we all know, climate change is and loss of biodiversity is just in the beginning, in the infancy. And much more is going to happen, much more is in the pipeline. And we need strength, we need love, we need cooperation, and we need the umbrella of protection from the divine to sort of move ahead in the time. And we believe if we all join hands in that direction and we connect to the divine, we bring that divine light on earth, then we are able to bring a transformation to this planet. Then we are able to tackle climate change, loss of biodiversity, because the yogi or the spiritual person believes mind is above matter. Mind controls matter. Mind influences matter. And interestingly, if you look in quantum physics, there's a very interesting experiment. It's called the double slit experiments. And what they find out is that through your observation, you actually shape the result of experiments. It's quite interesting. And so we believe that through our observation, we shape also the present scenario in this world, but we also shape the future. So if we all change our observation, the standpoint, we become loving, compassionate, peaceful, we change the direction of the world. We can influence the politicians, we can influence the scientists, and we can change the course of action on the planet towards a better future. So thank you very much. I hope I could make some sense in the 10 minutes which I had, and one or the other might be inspired to look into meditation or yoga. We have a very nice initiative also called Yogis for Future, where we have uploaded 150 meditation commentaries. It's on the internet. You can Google it, Yogis for Future, and you just can have a 5 minutes meditation and create inner peace, inner resilience, and inner happiness. And if you have a smile on your face, you create smiles on the other faces, and if we all smile, planet will become a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guru. You have painted a dramatic picture for the future, but also given us some ideas of the tools to build inner resilience and to shape our future destiny. Thank you. So our next speaker is Tagile Matevos. Yes, Country Director of Yehivot Berhan Church of Ethiopia Development Organization. Correct? Yes. And Läkarmissionen, LM International, Melanie is their local partner in Ethiopia. And this organization is a faith-based non-profit charity established in 1999. And they deliver holistic service to the marginalized and deprived in the society. And Tagile here has worked with faith-driven climate action and environment restoration for decades. And I understand that you address both the climate crisis, the poverty, with your spiritual and faith-based action.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very much glad to have this wonderful time with my colleagues and all participants to listen and share your views. And I will continue from my experience from my organization. I think as you listen from the introductory part, as Sonia mentioned, my organization is faith-based, thus particularly the Christian community. So everything is started from biblical point of view. The title here is selected Mind and Planet. Am I right?
Yes.
So everything is started from here. Abuse and development and respond to climate crisis. And then there is illness currently observed across the globe, including my country, between mind and environment. So the first source should be reorganized, or we have to work on mind setup toward this climate crisis. And then we have been intervened tree planting and environment for more than 2 decades and at organizational level. But finally we figure out it's only confined at organizational level. Finally, we are figure out the Christian communities almost forget their responsibility, what the Bible clearly telling to them. And then we are trying to discuss with the key leaders of the church. And then now we are brought up the issue to discuss about the climate crisis. And then we bring politicians and key church leaders, influential people in the community to engage in tree planting and to discuss the Christian responsibility, role, ethics, accountability of the Christian community. All of them believe their sacred book, the Bible, tells us several responsibility to respond to the climate action. And then that's actually recently started in my organization and since 2019. And now we had bring marvelous impact in the community. All the politicians and the medias and engage in the tree planting and communicating. I am, as I mentioned, let me mention, if you are happy, I don't know, let me bring one verse from the scripture, 1 Corinthians. Apostle Paul has mentioned in chapter 12, verse 12 to 27. I try to pick only verse 26. Says, if one part suffers, every part suffers within it. You know, the problem of climate is intermingled. It's not possible to dissect, it's related with everything. And we are trying to convince the church leaders and the community politicians at the same time. And finally, it's acknowledged. We are working for the last couple of years in intervening tree planting and respond to the climate action. Yeah, but the title, Elizo accept the title actually yesterday, strengths and value, healthy mind and healthy planet. I think both is very much tied, each other, and then it must be done, mobilizing and teaching, giving awareness to the climate agenda. That's what we are working at the community level. We have several discussions with the key people. I think it's very simple. Once the leaders of the religion accept the idea, it's easy to convince the whole community. That's what we are working. I think my part is very short and clear, precise. I will communicate my later on depending on your questions.
Tack.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So that's it. What can happen when you remind the politicians of what it says in the Bible. And some of the Bible quotes, you can mobilize action. So that's a very beautiful description. And if the religious leader gets on the board, then the community also gets on the board. So thank you. So Lorna, Dr. Lorna Gold is the director of faith building in Faith Invest. And Lorna has over 2 decades of engaging faith in environment work and environment justice. Lorna has worked before on a senior level in Truquar, the official overseas development agents of the Catholic Church in Ireland. Yeah. So Lorna is the leading voice now of faith-consistent investing with the Catholic Church and supporting the Irish Bishop Conference to divest from fossil fuels. She's on the board of directors of Laudato Si movement and a member of the Vatican COVID Commission and Economic Task Force. So welcome, Lorna.
Thank you. Thanks, Sonia. And it's wonderful to be here in Stockholm with you lovely people, and also for everybody who's joining us on Zoom. I have to say I'm very sobered by what we've heard so far this evening and what we've heard even today in the lead up to the conference, particularly listening to you, Golo, about what's happening in India. And I've been following the climate crisis and working on this a bit like yourself ever since the Kyoto Protocol was signed and we had the Rio summit. And I'm actually celebrating my 50th birthday this month so I'm the same age as the UN Environment Programme. And I think I've always been an environmental activist ever since I was about this size. So it's a sobering message or situation that we're in. And for me, looking at this situation here in Stockholm, you can see the fragmentation. I think the message that I see, or the kind of what I see around us, is a breakdown, a fragmentation of everything, a system failure. A system failure, which is so much now staring us in the face. This failure of systems, systemic failure in terms of climate emissions, the graph that keeps going up and up when it should have reached its tipping point and inflection point and be on the steep decline. So it's a system failure. And Pope Francis, who I have great admiration for in terms of his work on the environment, and has sparked really a new kind of impulse in the faith world around environmental action, certainly within the Catholic world. He talks very much about the topic that we're focusing on tonight, and that's the need to really explore the integral nature of the crisis that we're facing. We have to, and this is what you were saying, Golo, about the change of mindset. It's not about changing one bit of our mindset. It's about a shift completely of really what it means to be human in this world today. He uses a lovely term for it called integral ecology, which Pope Francis didn't invent, but it's wonderful because he lifts up this term that's already there. Integral ecology. Because integral ecology is about recognizing the interconnectedness of all the different aspects of our lives, from the inner work to the interpersonal, to the community, to the systemic change. And I think that this is so important for us to almost use that sense of the collapse and the fragmentation and the need for a renewal of integral approaches as the kind of foundation of where we need to be and where we need to focus. Because it's only if you go right to that deep, deep level that you start to see the change that needs to happen, because it's transformative, the change that we need. It's transformative on a personal level, but also it's transformative on a community and collective level. For me, this term, we need a new moral imagination. So what do we mean by that? A moral imagination. It means that we need to reimagine. We need a new understanding of what it means to be human, and then what that means in how we co-live together on this planet. And that moral imagination, faith communities should have, and indeed do have, an important part to play in shaping what that imagination looks like today. As you said, Sonia, I've worked for many different organizations in the climate space, and most recently, really since 2018, I've been working focused on the area of faith and investments. And you might think, why? I'm so drawn very much to the creative spaces and the kind of interpersonal spaces and the kind of those spaces where you can live with compassion. So why would you actually get involved in investments or investing? I think it's because I see two things. One is, one of the key reasons why we are in this situation today is because we have allowed human activity to be driven by an investment and financial system that knows no limits, that's driven by personal gain, corporate gain, and profit. So that's the number one. Unless we change that system, we are going to continue to be driven by forces that are bigger than us, that consume, that know no end to consumption. And the second side is the only countervailing force I see that could change that system are the faith communities. Because faith communities are not just, let's say, advocates for a different world. Faith communities are communities. They are stakeholders in building a different world. And they have significant stake in that investment system. The problem is that these two worlds of investing and faith have grown far apart in the past 20 years, 30 years. particularly in the last 10 to 20 years. They've become professionalized to the point that the value system has been outsourced. So most faith groups don't even know what they're invested in. Therefore, they're investing in an unsustainable future. And we've seen recent successes where faith communities can start to shift the dial at scale through the divestment movement. Through committing to get their money out of fossil fuels, they've started to shift the market towards something a little bit more, but signaling to the market that values matter. The next step, as I see it, is that we need to invest, understand where our investments are and reinvest, I would say, aggressively in a sustainable future, in the projects that you're doing in India, in the work that you're doing in Ethiopia, and be able to bring that transformative kind of sustainable energy, sustainable communities to scale. That's why Faith Invest exists, to build a bridge between the faith leaders, the faith communities, and the investment worlds. Because all too often faiths actually think that they have to do what their investment advisors say. They put the responsibility onto the advisors. But as someone said at a meeting I was at last week, it's not in the Christian world, it's not, or in the Christian faith, but it could be taken for all faiths. It's not the responsibility of your advisor to tell you how to live your mission as a person of faith. And that extends to how you invest. If you believe in integral ecology, if you believe that we are integral human beings, how you invest, how you live your economic activities is a moral act. It's a moral responsibility. So you can't devolve or delegate that responsibility. You can instruct your advisors on how you want them to invest your money, but you can't devolve the responsibility. So the work of Faith Invest is to do this, and we're working with many faith communities right across the world. Firstly, through faith plans to audit, to do a comprehensive audit of their assets, including their investments in their land. And out of that audit, to rethink with a new zeal and a new moral imagination on what the future of their investments looks like in working together for a sustainable future.
Thank you very much. Wow. When you spoke, I came to think of what Olof Palme said in '72, and I think it corresponds so nicely. So I will read to you what he says. The decisive question is in what direction we will develop, by what means we will grow, which qualities we want to achieve, and what the values we wish to guide our future with. And I think you were addressing exactly this in your presentation about going from profitable gain and to think of our moral duty and the transformative process from the investment and reinvestment. So thank you very much. I have asked the panelists to think of questions to each other. So we will start with that before I open up from questions from the floor and from the chat. So maybe Golo, you go first. You have questions for your panelists, friends?
Yeah, but only one question for each, you know.
Yes, and you know, about 1 minute answer I've allocated to this. Yeah.
So to Tagela, I have the question how to create unity among the whole world population, you know, to go in the right direction, you know. And to Lorna, it's very nice what you said, and you also mentioned that transformation on the inside is very, very important, you know. So how to achieve that transformation on the inside, you know? Because it's an individual process. So what is your ideas how to bring that change on everybody's inside?
Would you explain the first question?
You see, the crisis is a global crisis, so we have to we have to reach out to the world, you know, and so how to create that what's your idea how to create unity amongst the world, you know, how to reach out to the whole globe, in which way, you have any idea, any concept, you know?
You start.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, all commitment should be started from at grassroots level. That's the preliminary step, and then it will be reached. Each phase community has their own way of responding climate crisis. But in my context, we are trying to figure out which type of religion found in that peculiar community. And then we are trying to check and balance and the teaching from the sacred book to the climate agenda. I think the Christian community across globe, I'm trying to see the current projection of the population. I think it's more than 2.3 billion, sorry. And then that's common responsibility. We do have the same Bible, and the same Bible speaks about our responsibility to respond to the climate agenda. And we didn't start because we do have the dominant religion and the area we are tackling the environment issue. That's only the Christian community. But as we all know, there are several religions. We can observe that in each religion there is a sort of teaching to respond to the climate issue. But our perception is to start what we have. That's what we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And Lorna?
And I've forgotten what my question was.
How to achieve transformation on the inside, you know, because you know, Sonia said, Olof Palme said 50 years ago all these questions, and still we are having the questions, but the change is not really happening. The trend is in the other direction so far, and how to individually bring transformation on the inside to the people, you know, what is your idea?
Yeah, it's
how to inspire them?
So it's not an easy question. I think if I had the answer, we would be very not sitting in the situation we're in. If it was an easy question,
you share yourself how you achieve transformation.
So the one thing I would say is reconnecting with nature. So the biggest thing I see that we need to do to achieve inner transformation is to slow down. We really need to slow down at so many different levels. We need this mindfulness, yoga, slow down, calm, because it's like we're frenetic as a species. So to me personally, and in my family, connecting and reconnecting with nature every single day. So whether that's even just a flower or contemplating, but finding that beauty in nature and reconnecting, that's what to me brings the kind of transformation. And if you extend that outwards, I think there's a deep issue, or not issue, a deep message for our faith leaders there in terms of where we find the divine. And often we now don't find the divine in stone buildings. We find the divine in the outdoors, in nature, so that's the bigger question, but that would be what I would say.
Thank you. So your two questions. Your first question to Golo.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. I heard that in your presentation, meditation versus renewable energy. I'm trying to understand that aspect at least. Where is the link? Meditation and renewable energy.
Okay.
How did you reconcile those issues and where they meet? That's the question.
You can go ahead, Golo. Yes.
Should I answer directly? Yeah. It's a very interesting question. You know, when I came to India, I saw all these problems there. I came first time 85 to India, and already deforestation was going on, and Rajasthan is a very dry desert type countryside. So I could big difference to Germany, very lush green and a lot of resources, and there was water shortage and tree shortage, bushes were short and all these things. So I had the idea of introducing renewable energies, but you need strength. And you need focus and you need power to do that, you know, and you have to deal with yourself, with different culture, so many aspects. So you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn to become compassionate and loving, to bring new ideas to another country as a foreigner, you know, because they look at you and they see you, they call you Angrezi, you know, Angrezi means a Britisher because they were white skinned. I said I'm a German, I'm not a Britisher, but for them I'm Angrezi. And so there are a lot of undertones and different feelings. Meditation helped me a lot to adapt, to change, and to go in the depth of living in harmony with myself, but also with nature. And renewable energy is a technology where you try to minimize the impact into the environment. The carbon footprint, actually, in theory, the carbon footprint of renewable energies should be very, very low. And you keep entropy also very low in renewable energies. It's not the medicine which will fix all the global problems, but it will slow down a lot of the problems, and it's definitely for the third world the method to develop and move ahead, you know, for sure. So meditation helped me to go into harmony with myself, and renewable energy was a way and means to express it on the outside, use a technology within harmony with nature, which does not harm the trees, which does not harm the land, and once its lifespan is over, you can even recycle it, you know, and it doesn't harm. For example, the power plant which we built, we planted 3,000 trees around it. We started organic farming in between the solar collectors and all this. And once the lifespan of the plant is over, we try to recycle 95% of the material. So that's a bit the idea behind it. So from the inside to the outside, that was the idea: harmony and love and compassion.
Thank you. So your question to Lorna?
Yeah, only one.
Yes.
The invest and reinvest. But I'm thinking, you know, the shifting point there, and there is investment which is affecting the climate issue, and then your organization turn from invest to reinvest. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how did you reconcile the phase leaders and this process? Is there any role they played from invest to reinvest?
Very good question. So Faith Invest works on two levels. We work with the faith leadership, who are the ones who, in a sense, set the teaching and the moral kind of code and the kind of the overall mission of the faith organization. And then we also work with their kind of operational people who translate that vision into an investment policy and investment guidelines. To give an example, many organizations have a negative screening approach of their investments. So they work with an external advisor from a big investment, BlackRock or one of these investment houses. And the leadership of the faith group sit around and they decide we're not going to invest in certain categories of investments, certain companies. Normally it's military, tobacco, other negative products. So they already take out those investments through the work of faith, but the rest of the investments is still feeding an unsustainable economy. And many of the areas that they exclude they somehow find their way back into the investment, because even if you're not investing in guns, You might be investing still in satellite technology that's helping the military. So we need a radically different approach. And that's the work that Faith Invest does. It helps to bring the experts together, as well as the faith leaders, and to take ownership back. That we own this, it's our money, and we can direct where it needs to be spent.
Thank you, Lorna. Interesting process.
Yeah.
I've forgotten how much of the land is owned by the churches worldwide, but it's a big amount.
Yeah.
Yes. Lorna, now your two questions.
So I'm going to start first with Gailey. So we're looking towards COP27 in Africa this year for the first time. What are your hopes for COP27 this year? So the climate negotiations in Africa.
Egypt,
In Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yeah.
Our expectation for the
Yeah.
Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we are not familiar to that summit, but as I mentioned earlier, I don't know, might be in the first session. These are global policies and agendas. In my perception, in my context, they are irrelevant. They don't know. At the grassroots level, it's irrelevant. They don't know what the policies are saying about the climate agenda. Actually, it's me, I'm trying to start from convincing my closest staff at my organization, and then I will try to go to the church key leaders just to introduce the idea from the context itself. I never mention any policy document from UN Environment and Sustainable SDG. I never mentioned that. But just we have to play our role. We are affected by the climate crisis, and then we are starting. Might be indirectly it will contribute something for the summit 2027. Yeah. But what we are doing, not considering the global policy, just we have to start from in our context. And that's what we are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And for Golo, what's the one thing that you feel faith leaders could do to support the transition to sustainable energy or to renewable energy?
That's a good question, because faith leaders are very important. So first, I think it's very important that we understand that the crisis is also a chance. And crisis brings us all together and we think about solution. Quite interestingly, in India, they have this idea, this concept of the cycle of time. It's quite interesting. So in the cycle of time, we're now in the Kali Yuga, in the age where everything comes up, where that what you sow, you reap. It's called bad karma in Indian philosophy. So we're dealing, climate change is bad karma, loss of biodiversity is bad karma. We started 150 years to fight the planet, and we're reaping the fruits now. So as per Indian tradition, this is a time which has to happen because humanity has fallen. So now comes the lesson and the teaching, and we're searching back for the light and for the divine. And I think if leaders understand this idea and this concept, it becomes very easy to sort of communicate that to the people, that this is a time of transition. And this is a time to wake up to all of us, to the world community, and this is a chance. And this is the time for change. It's nothing to worry, nothing to be afraid. It's just a transition, and the divine light is watching and helping and guiding. So then the whole fear comes out of the process, because a lot of fear is in all this. I mean, these are huge, huge things in front of our eyes, and we are small human beings, very difficult to change them. But if you understand it's part of a destiny, it's part of a development which is supposed to happen for us to change and to transform and to rise, becomes much, much easier to deal. And maybe one or the other faith leader also gives a good call for a vegetarian or vegan diet, because we all know I would like to mention that before I forget it, because it's so important. You know, there was a calculation by University of Oxford, within 5 years, the whole globe has to become vegetarian. Otherwise, mathematically, no chance to tackle climate change, you know. So see the animals as our friends, as our partners on the planet, not eat them, because we are here since 30 years, 40 years. I'm a vegetarian, and my brother is a doctor, and he says, Golo, after 2-3 years, you will run low on this vitamin, this vitamin, this vitamin. Now he himself is almost a vegetarian. And I'm the most healthy. So faith leaders have a lot of responsibility, but they have also a lot of chances. And most important is to give the good message and to take the fear out of the transformation process, which we are all in, obviously. It's a transformation process, you know. And it's important to see where we're heading. And as per the Indian philosophy, we're heading to another Sat Yuga, which is translated, the age of truth is coming. The Greek called it the golden age. Christians call it paradise.
Yeah.
So nothing to worry.
So thank you very much. Isn't it interesting to hear that question to each other? So beautiful, beautiful. And I wonder now if you here in the room have any questions, or if those online have any questions, you're most welcome to come forward. You're absorbing the good energy here in the room, isn't it? Yes. And if there are any questions online, I will get them on my phone, and I can't see any. So whilst you're thinking, I was having a question myself. And you talked about the fragmentation happening in the world and the systemic failure. And I wonder, how do you personally keep hope and strength seeing this? And you did mention, you touched upon it here last, Golo, but maybe you want to add a personal touch to it. All of you, the same question. What's your personal practice to keep hope and spirit and looking ahead into the future and just watching the system failing?
For me, it's about my children. And it's about the belief in a loving God. And as you say, that this belief that we're being held also by our Mother Earth. And I want to tell you a little story, how our children can also teach us about the change we need. I was in the west of Ireland with my son. He was 5 years old. And most of my, in Catholicism, you talk about catechesis, most of my teaching or passing on my faith happens outdoors in nature. And we were talking and walking and talking about the beautiful earth. And we were walking down a beautiful pathway, and it reminded me of you in the forest. The insects and the wildflowers and just this moment of utter joy and beauty with my children. And the 5-year-old, he was walking and he started to pick flowers for Granny, wildflowers. And picking these flowers, he turned round to me and with a beautiful smile said to me, "Gosh, Mummy, doesn't Mother Earth have beautiful hair?" And then he said, "Do you think she can feel it when you pick it out?" And to me, that beautiful intuition of a child gives me hope, because that's the delicacy that we need to tread on the earth. We need to tread so lightly on the earth.
Like angels. How do you keep hope, Tagila?
Yeah. It's moral responsibility. I think it's hope for the future, but it should be based on our ethics.
Our
Ethics.
ethics.
Yeah. Otherwise, somewhere there is a blockage. and we lost everything. Ethics should remain to proceed to the next generation. And what we figure out, we do have biblical ethics to keep the environment, but it's neglected. The church podium, you will never listen what the Bible is saying about the climate. And the responsibility is stewardship. Harmony with nature, totally avoided from the podium. So this moral responsibility should be remain with the current generation. It should be introduced to the children. And that's the way to proceed and keep the future.
So hope is not an option, it's a duty.
Yes.
Golo, how do you keep hopeful?
Well, in yogi life, you follow a certain set of lifestyles. You know, it's almost like a monk life, a monastery life. You have a vegetarian diet. You don't indulge in alcohol or tobacco or any of these things. And you also meditate regularly. And I'm very lucky. I stay in Mount Abu, translated the Mountain of the Father, which is a very interesting name. And I believe there are holy places in the world where there is a very powerful energy. And I'm very lucky to stay in such a place which is charged with positive vibrations. And every evening I can go into a meditation place, which is even more powerful, and meditate and connect to the light and to the divinity. And when this light comes, it calms me, it soothes me, it strengthens me, it takes away worries, it gives confidence, it gives happiness, and it gives love and detachment. You know, detachment from the worries and the troubles of the world, because the world is in trouble and is in worries, you know, and they're increasing. And I become a loving and detached observer. And I think if one is in that mindset, one can become a server and start helping, because one is not disturbed by the suffering around you. You know, you have to be detached from the suffering around you and to become loving, and then you can become a lighthouse and a lighthouse if you meditate regular. And this gives me a lot of hope and makes me very happy, because we call this Mansa Seva, serving through the mind, serving through benevolent thoughts of love and compassion, because we're all connected on a subtle energy level. And if we start creating this energy field of love and compassion, it reaches out to the world and everybody catches it. If we all have these antennas, you know, and so if we strengthen that field and charge that field, we create also that unity amongst all of us, and we all start waking up and we go towards the light. And that's the process humanity is on right now, and that makes me actually quite happy. I try to see this as a happy time for the world, as a transformative time for the world, and then not as a destructive phase. I try to see the constructive elements in it, because it will bring us all together to a higher plane of existence and to a very beautiful level of happiness and harmony with nature, you know, because nature is there for us to enjoy and to interact and not to exploit what we're doing right now. So I think this regular meditation, that's my anchor, you know, which has carried me through almost 40 years of transformative process, which is quite something, and made me able to do all the solar projects as a foreigner in India, which is also quite a challenge, you know. But it was good fun, you know. I'm looking now back with a smile and happiness on the past, which is quite good. So, like that.
So thank you, all of you, for your personal stories of keeping hope. And Golo, you talked about the positive atmosphere you experience in Mount Abu, in Marban. And I think here together, we have generated a very positive room here tonight together, and also with you online. So I thought we maybe stop here and do a meditation together, because the You have one question. Oh, wow. So one question before we get down meditation. So, okay. Has there been a standout moment in your life when the environment or nature has resulted in a light bulb moment or helped you in a time of mental struggle? I find hearing the stories of others a wonderful way to inspire my own life. And she starts by thanking you for a wonderful conversation tonight. But she's also asking, do you have a light bulb moment when nature helped you in your mental struggle? Yeah, Lorna.
One moment comes to mind very, very strongly, and it was a time when I was really weighed down by the problems of the world and driving myself into burnout. You know, you think it's all on your shoulders and you're responsible for everything. And I went to a meditation center, and part of the meditation was to go out into nature and just be 100% present in the moment. And as I was out there, I spotted a bee, a beautiful bee on a flower. And this bee, it was like it was saying to me, look at you fretting about the situation of the world. And here I am, just getting on with it. Just getting on with it, knowing obviously the bees are in trouble, but the bee was joyfully going from flower to flower, pollinating. And after I kind of just had that moment of like, right, I just have to literally be in the moment and stop all this negative thinking and worry that was pulling me down. I just need to be like that bee.
Actually, I was doing an art and nature workshop in India, and we start by having kind of a silent moment, and then the participants go out in nature and they pick things from nature intuitively, come back and do a collage. And this has a very kind of healing process, and then you have very insights. And one guy told me he went out totally blank, didn't know what to pick. He looked around, couldn't see anything. And this is a boring workshop, so I will take a nap. So he lied down under the tree to sleep. And then a dead branch fell down into his head. And that moment was a wake-up call for him. So he was at shock at first, and then he started to think, how can I be blank in nature? And it led up to a big change in his personal transformation and approach to life in general. And I thought it was a funny, sweet little story. But do you have a time when nature have helped you?
You know, Sonia, I love very much the ocean.
Yeah.
And even today we went to the harbor, and I saw all the ships coming and going, and I don't know, you know, we yogis believe in reincarnation.
Yeah.
So Sonia said you must have been a sailor in a previous life, you know. And whenever I come to the ocean, I see the vastness, you know, the infinity. And that just like is beautiful, you know, it calms me down. And then I always decide I have to live at the ocean. But unfortunately, I live in India in the mountains, you know, like 400 kilometers from the ocean. It's super dry. So it's the opposite. So at least when I come to ocean, I can enjoy it, and it's nice. It's nice, yeah. But unfortunately, it's also a bit sad, you know, because now pollution in the oceans is also paramount. So I'm now looking at nature loving and detached, because now nature is also in many places in a bad shape, you know. So 20, 30, 40 years ago, yes, I could take innocently from nature and charge myself. But nowadays I also see, you know, when I'm a builder and I learned carpentry, so I see the trees in Germany when I travel, you know, the trees are dying. and they all become brown now. 30% of all the trees in Germany, 20% of the needle trees there, they're brown. 20%. It's quite amazing. And every year it's getting more and more. And so I understand nature is also a reflection. What happens on the inside of humanity, So I'm not trying to charge myself, take too much from nature, because it's already down quite a lot, So I'm more now my relation to nature has changed. I'm more understand that through my thoughts and my intention I can help nature, instead of taking from nature and charging myself up, and especially in Rajasthan where I am, it's a semi-desert, So it's like it's like very dry, and if a little tree comes up, it comes very careful, very slowly. It's not easy for nature there. I want to build a greenhouse now. So I put some
Thank you.
veggies up and all this. So let's see.
Thank you. You want to share a story? Or?
Yes. Once I was in different commitment. Sometimes there is state burnout. And then I was tired with different meetings and commitment, preparing reports. And again, there is, some negative people are facing different issues. In the midst of one commitment to visit the forestry. And then I went there. The place were called Jole. It was before 7 years ago. It's hilly like this. In the bottom area, there are some people living. And then there is landsliding, and the big stones fall down to the houses on the down area. And then we actually plant the trees there. I know I have the picture before 7 years ago. Now it's totally forest. It's impossible to even cross to the trees. It's the place where habitat for different animals. And then I'm starting to think what I'm facing at the office, and things totally changed in Jole. And then I am revived. It was a place where suffering to the community. Now there are big honey production inside the trees. Young people, those who are looking job, making honey production. Beekeepers are there. And it was impossible to live for animals. Nowadays, they are living inside there. Yeah, there is hope. Things will change, even in my life. There is hope in Jole, and there is hope in my responsibility in my life. Nature revived me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful stories.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What a wonderful way of ending our conversation. So let's have 5 minutes meditation together, and we can maybe practice some of the points that our speakers have touched upon, sending good wishes and good thoughts to Mother Earth. So I will guide a few thoughts during this meditation. So I'll ask you to sit straight on your chairs. Maybe put the feet down so you can feel Mother Earth under your feet. And let's start the meditation. Relaxing the body. Taking a few deep breaths. Breathing deeply makes me humble. Breathing deeply connects me to all living beings. I go inside with my thoughts. Find a place of rest and comfort in my heart or in my soul. Fill my heart with peaceful light. I fill my mind with the light of peace. I stay with the peaceful part of me. The peaceful being of light deep inside, forever. As a peaceful being of light, I connect to the Supreme, to the Divine, to the light. Whatever happens in the future, I can always remain connected to the Divine. I see the world in front of my inner eye. I send good wishes to Mother Earth. I embrace Mother Earth with my loving feelings, with my compassion. Send God's light to the forest, to the ocean, to the animals, to the flowers. We can hear the ambulance passing outside, so someone is in need. So we send good energies there also. Become a server. I serve through peace and light. So I return back from the meditation with gratitude for everything we have to share. Take a deep breath. Om Shanti. Thank you. And special thank you to our panelists, and I think actually they deserve a hand, don't you think? Thank you. So what a wonderful evening. And we also send good wishes and all the best to the politicians when they meet tomorrow, and the conference Stockholm+50 is starting tomorrow. And they have various leadership dialogues and many side events out there, and we wish them all the best for good decisions. Bold action and bold decisions is the headline of the conference. Tomorrow evening, we have another program here in the same location about shifting mindset. So we will go deeper into the topic of the mind tomorrow and its connection to the environment and sustainable development. So that's tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, also to those listening online. Otherwise, I say thank you also to the host here, Brahma Kumaris in Stockholm, for providing us this opportunity to meet. So thank you and good evening. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we can